Alrighty, good morning, gang. It is Friday morning. TGIF, thank goodness, or thank God that it's Friday. I appreciate everybody joining me this morning. I hope yesterday was a winning day for you. Let's try to make today, Friday, an extra payday for you folks. Let's try to get to the money tonight. We got 7 NBA games to talk about. We'll be going over all your favorite player props over on PrizePicks. We're talking points, assists, rebounds, and assists, and some three-point makes. And if you got fantasy score props, I'll be happy to take a look at those as well. My name's CJ. For those of you who have never been here before, make sure that you're subscribed. Make sure that notifications are turned on. I go live Monday through Friday, 11 a.m. Eastern time, doing player prop research for you live here on YouTube. So if you're into that sort of thing, this is the perfect channel for you. We'll be digging through all the numbers, all the stats, all the matchups, and trying to get you off to a good start in your player prop research. Thank you so much to everybody who's joining me here. Leave a like if you can. We're continuing to grow the channel out. More and more people finding my content. More and more people are getting player prop research help. It is very helpful if you can to take notes. If you have like a notepad, a pen, if you can pull out your smartphone and open up the Notes app, there might be some picks or plays that really stand out to you that you want to dig into further. It might be beneficial for you to take some notes. That could be a helpful thing for you to revisit later on in the day after we get some more of this news that breaks and things like that. So just a little tip that I've seen some people in the Patreon and Discord community do. They take some pretty thorough notes. They highlight some plays, some players that they're liking. So that could be a good move for you. Anyway, let's say what's up to everybody and get things started here in just a moment. Fernando, good morning to you. Good to see you. Matt is up in the building. Chris B, ready to try again today. Absolutely. All we can do after a rough night is dust ourselves off, get back up and try it again. Mark is in the building. King Chris, shout out to you. Seeing a lot of Patreon fam up in here. Love to see it. Chris B, happy Friday to you. Low Baller, good morning. Chris Smith, what's up? Chill Robots, TGIF, my friends. Same back to you. Desmond, another one of our Patreon members. Let's get it. Aaron Rodgers says PrizePicks won this week. It's been kind of a rough week for me too. Last few days has just been shaky, but I did warn you guys that the NBA around this time of the year, it never ceases to fail. Gets a little crazy, guys. NBA gets a little crazy around the trade deadline leading up to the All-Star break. We're coming up in just about a week from now to the All-Star break. So, might want to scale back a little bit. Maybe not play as much entries. Maybe not play as much money on a given night. But the NBA does typically get kind of crazy. We got a lot of new faces who have changed places. They're on different teams now. A lot of trades happened yesterday at the trade deadline. So I'm sure we're going to talk about a little bit of that here when we go through our game-by-game sort of matchups here. But yeah, it's definitely been a little chaotic here lately. I agree with some of the folks who are saying that. Pick 3 Lover says, at the gambling table, there are no locks. You're right about that. Good morning. Coach Peoples, peace. New day, new money. That's how we have to think about it. We have to hit the reset button, have a short-term memory, and try to move on from whatever happened last night, good or bad. Never too high, never too low. Stay even keeled, right? That's the name of the game. Everyday Fantasy says, happy hour to the Friday Patreon gang. Yeah, PrizePicks will be running their happy hour promo, $1 minimum entries. So that's a good way to get some entries in there at a low cost to you. Instead of the minimum being $5, you could play just $1. Just $1. So that's pretty cool. Good to see Aaron Rodgers up in here. Zach Gill says, what up, CJ? Time to make that money back. Yeah, we can definitely use a little bounce back, right? 44 Beer says, let's go. Make Friday a payday from PrizePicks. That's the goal, man. That is the plan. That is the plan. Drew Brees, let's go. Have a great Friday. Let's do it. Tyrone McGrew, TGIF, let's have a good day today. Jimmy Green's in the building. Shout out to you, Jimmy. Tony Ruiz says, good morning, CJ. Got back. Let's go. Let's go. Let's go. Smitty says, good morning, people. Let's rack it up tonight. Love the energy. That's what we need. The positive vibes. Bring them to the stream, y'all. Bring the positive vibes to the stream, y'all. JC says, bring it. What? We right here. We ain't going anywhere. We right here. Love that, man. DMX. Rest in peace to the Dark Man X. Tim Harrell says, I managed to put together every losing combo I could last night. We're going to change that tonight. Absolutely. Chaz says, yo, good morning, CJ. Strange games last night, but we back in business. By the way, I'm Rusty Bearings. Oh, okay. I see you, Rusty Bearings. Love to know that. It's always good to know to put a name on Patreon, Discord to a name on YouTube. Leroy, what's happening, man? He says, Beef Stew got into some foul trouble. All right. So I see we got a lot of folks up in here. Mac B's in the building. Big Bank Fridays. Wes is in here saying that maybe we take some unders today. Well, unders are always on the board. They're just not quite as fun. Magic, good to see you, my friend. Let's make it a good day. Dat Stud, Killer Cam, King United. I see you. I hate anxiety. Well, I hate anxiety too. Why would you bet Portis's threes? Ooh, I don't know. Maybe it looked like a good play. I did not bet that one personally, but Cade Matthews says, what's up? C. Chav, I see you. Boston 617. Let's get green today. Happy Friday. Love that. Emmanuel Phillips, nice to see you, my friend. Max in the building. We got Kissa, Patreon, gang. Love it. Jide, good to see you as well. Talking about some Grayson Allen. Grayson Allen definitely did his thing. So yeah, definitely smash that like button. We'll get things started here. If I missed anybody, apologies, nothing personal. There's a lot of folks up in here, and I'm sure more will join here in just a moment. So yeah, we're going to look at the 7-game NBA slate. Lots of news to stay on top of. We'll definitely get into that and get into these player matchups here. So starting things off, 7 p.m. Eastern time, Oklahoma City Thunder at the Philadelphia 76ers. Just a 207.5 total on this game. Very low scoring game. And it's a 13-point spread in favor of Philadelphia, meaning blowout alert. So if you're going to take anybody in a full game format, make sure it's somebody with a high usage rate, somebody who's going to have a major role in that blowout. Guys like Joel Embiid. We're not sure if James Harden's playing tonight or not. He is currently a game time decision. I have not heard officially that Harden is in or out. So that's obviously a very big piece of injury news that we must stay on top of. Will the Beard make his debut for Philadelphia tonight? Or will they postpone it and bring him in a future game? Don't know yet. Over on the Oklahoma City side, SGA is out. They're dealing with a lot of different injuries to their young group. We got Wiggins as a game time decision, not Andrew Wiggins, Aaron Wiggins. We got Akbala, Robinson Earl, Muscala, and Roby also already ruled out. So this one, very low scoring game, and the spread being 13 points. Not looking very sexy here. Not looking great. 7 p.m. Charlotte Hornets, Detroit Pistons, 226.5 points. 7-point spread in this game. Charlotte, the favorites here on the road visiting the Pistons. A lot of little pieces of information here that we must decipher, such as Montrezl Harrell, who was traded to the Charlotte Hornets. Will he play tonight? And if so, how does he impact Mason Plumlee? Mason Plumlee's been doing a pretty decent job lately, getting on the glass, rebounding the basketball and stuff. But with Montrezl Harrell in the mix, it is sure to switch things up, change the chemistry, change the dynamic on this Charlotte Hornets squad. Gordon Hayward is ruled out. McDaniels is ruled out. So we've got two guys out for Charlotte. Obviously, the big one there is Gordon Hayward. Over on the Detroit side of things, keep an eye on Cade Cunningham. He's missed a couple of games here recently. He is currently listed as a game time decision. Marvin Bagley III, a new face in town. How will he integrate into the front court for the Detroit Pistons? Obviously, Beef Stew, Isaiah Stewart has been the starting center. They got Jeremy Grant as their starting power forward and Sadiq Bey as their small forward. Where does Marvin Bagley fit into this mix? We don't know. We don't know if he's going to play. We don't know if he's going to start when he does play. Things can get very interesting very quickly in this game. But the total's good, 226.5 with a 7-point spread in favor of Charlotte. Not a bad game to target. 7 p.m. Cleveland Cavaliers at the Indiana Pacers. Another couple of teams here who have made a lot of trade deadline moves. 213.5 points on the board. Cleveland, 8-point favorites. Obviously, Cleveland recently made the trade and picked up Karis LeVert. In the last game, Karis LeVert came off of the bench. he was not in the starting lineup, and it doesn't look like right now he is projected to be in the starting lineup. But this is sort of a revenge game, if you will. Caris LeVert facing off against the team who just traded him away, the Indiana Pacers. Do we think Caris LeVert has a big game against the Pacers or attempts to have a big game against the Pacers? Possibly. Now, over on the Indiana side, Tyrese Halliburton, who's pretty much taking Caris LeVert's spot on Indiana. He's a game time decision. We don't know if he's going to play or not. Malcolm Brogdon, also a game time decision. So we're not really sure what the backcourt's going to look like for the Indiana Pacers. On top of that, they did trade for Jalen Smith, traded Torrey Craig away. So they've got currently Goga Bitadze and O'Shea Brissett projected to be their starters in the front court. So it remains to be seen what's really going to happen with these two teams. Are these new players, new faces going to be available for Indiana or not? I don't know. We got to stay on top of the news. Nonetheless, total's not great. Spread's okay, but it is borderline blowout type of stuff. And I think Cleveland, being a much better team, will most likely end up blowing out the Pacers at some point. 7:30 p.m., San Antonio Spurs at the Atlanta Hawks. We got 232.5 points, a super sky-high total. Gotta love that. That means that there will be plenty of opportunities for things like points, rebounds, assists, and fantasy points. 8-point spread favors the home team, the Atlanta Hawks here. Keep an eye on the injury news for Atlanta. We got Lou Williams, game time decision. Over on the San Antonio side, Goran Dragic. He is a new face in town for San Antonio. I thought he was going to be bought out. Am I wrong on that? I thought he was going to be bought out. But they got Satoransky. They got Jones, also game time decisions. But otherwise, the starting lineup for the San Antonio Spurs, pretty much the same group of guys. Pretty much the same cast of characters. Obviously, they did trade away Derek White. That was a big one. So no more Derek White. Instead, they signed or traded for Josh Richardson from Boston. So Josh Richardson probably at some point will be the starting shooting guard opposite DeJounte Murray in the backcourt, but it doesn't look like he's going to play today. They also got Romeo Langford in that trade too from Boston. So high scoring game. Total is great from that Atlanta game, but I'm not sure who's going to be in, who's going to be out. So a little worried about that one as well. It's going to be a shaky night. That's what I'm picking up here. That's the vibes that I'm getting. A lot of question marks so far. 7:30, Denver at Boston. 217 points, 5.5-point spread in favor of the guys in green, the Boston Celtics. Daniel Tice back with Boston. Derek White, we just talked about him. I don't know if he's going to be playing tonight or not. Game time decision at the moment. Over on the Denver side, nothing really impactful there. Pretty much the same cast of characters. It looks like Monty Morris will be ruled out though. So no Monty Morris tonight. Not sure who's going to be starting at point guard, but it will not be Monty Morris. So decent total on this one. Spread 5.5. Not looking great. Anyway, the next game does look pretty special here. 240.5 points. 240-point total, gang. I can't tell you the last time I've seen 240.5 implied points between two teams. I've seen some 230s, seen some 232s, 240 though. Ridiculously high total. They expect a lot of points to be scored between these two teams. 4-point spread as well. So I think full game format is definitely in play here. Now, as you can see, there's a lot of names for both of these teams that are on game time decision watch. Guys like Anthony Edwards, Naz Reid, Josh Okogie, D'Angelo Russell, Patrick Beverley, Taurean Prince. I mean, there's a lot of names here for Minnesota. Over on the Chicago side, we've got Dosunmu and Williams, both game time decisions. Still out for Chicago, Lonzo Ball, Alex Caruso. But you gotta love the total, man. 240.5 points with a 4-point spread. Crazy. Madness. And then finally, the last game of the night, the Orlando Magic, 9 p.m. Eastern time tip-off here. They're taking on the Utah Jazz. Utah is favored in this game by 13.5 points. So blowout alert, blowout alert. 221.5-point total. Should be a pretty healthy total there, but the spread for me makes this probably just a first half look. Or if you're going to take full game, maybe you take somebody like Donovan Mitchell, who should be a high usage guy. And you would imagine Donovan Mitchell is going to have a pretty good game in order for Utah to blow out Orlando. So maybe you could take him in a full game format. Nonetheless, injury news for Orlando. Mo Wagner big brother of Franz Wagner. He is a game time decision. Jalen Suggs, also a game time decision. Michael Carter-Williams, no longer with the Orlando Magic. Nope, they let him go. They traded for Bol and PJ Dozier, but they've already let PJ Dozier off the hook as well. So Orlando, making a couple of moves that aren't really too impactful, but keep an eye on Rudy Gobert, his status. If he's out, then I probably like the likes of Mo Bamba, Wendell Carter Jr. against the front court of Azubuike and Royce O'Neal. Not a very scary front court. So anyway, that is your games. 7 games tonight. A lot of crazy stuff, man. Crazy stuff happening in the NBA. Looks like Kiss is saying that Josh Richardson and Romeo Langford definitely out for the Spurs. That's what it seems like. That's definitely what it seems like. What are you guys thinking about today's slate? Are you feeling it, or are you not feeling it? It's kind of crazy here today. Nick Sarau saying that Harden is not expected to play tonight for Philadelphia. So that's some piece of news that we can kind of hang our hat on. At least we'll know, going into it, that we'll have Harden or we won't have Harden. But on top of that, just going through the news real quick, it looks like according to Underdog, the key news here: James Harden hamstring and the trade. He's unlikely to play. Anthony Edwards knee is questionable. D'Angelo Russell ankle questionable. Rudy Gobert calf questionable. Nikola Vucevic hip is probable. Tyrese Maxey hamstring questionable. Malcolm Brogdon Achilles is questionable. Tyrese Halliburton recent trade, he is probable, so we can expect to see Tyrese Halliburton for Indiana tonight. Jalen Suggs dealing with an Achilles injury, he's questionable. Dosunmu concussion is questionable. Buddy Hield, who was recently traded, he is probable. Cade Cunningham hip is to be determined. Marvin Bagley ankle, and the trade, who is also to be determined for Detroit. So that is your latest and greatest news, courtesy of Underdog's news feed. So you guys are saying all unders today, huh? Lots of blowouts potentially. Yeah, it's going to be a really wild night. Really wild night. So let's go ahead and start talking about some points props here. Maybe we can find some places where things are a little more stable, some teams who haven't made a lot of moves, things like that. So one of the guys that's been pretty consistent here lately is Jakob Poeltl. Jakob Poeltl at 12.5 points, taking on the Atlanta Hawks tonight. So other than Derek White missing from the San Antonio Spurs starting lineup, the rest of their squad's pretty much intact. It's pretty much the same group of guys, same cast of characters. Jakob Poeltl at 12.5 points over the last 10 games. He has covered this prop in 8 out of 10, so that's an 80% hit rate. We look at the last 5, the hit rate drops just a little bit, 3 out of 5 or 60%, but he is averaging a pretty healthy 14.8 points per game. So he'll be facing off against the likes of Clint Capella tonight. So let's go ahead and take a look at this matchup here for Jakob Poeltl and taking on that Atlanta Hawks front court. Over the last 7 games, the Atlanta Hawks are giving up over 25 points per game to opposing centers. If we take a look at the rankings, that's the 8th most points allowed, 8th most points. Just to compare to the season averages, Atlanta giving up about 22.5 for the course of the season versus recently 25. So they're starting to give up even more points to the center position, which bodes well here for Jakob Poeltl if we're looking to take the over. So Poeltl could be in a very good spot. Let's go ahead and take a look at the points projection for Poeltl today using the action projection tools provided by Fantasy Labs. 13.4 projected points at 12.5 points on 4 different sites, 4 different books. We're seeing some mixed action here. We're seeing one site with the under, another site where the public is taking the under, a third site where they're taking the under. But there is one site out there where people are actually taking the over. So 3 out of the 4 sites, people are taking the under at 12.5 points. You got one site out there where people, the betting public with real money in hand, are putting their money down on the over on Jakob Poeltl. So the projections like them. The hit rates over the last 10 games, pretty solid at 8 out of 10. And then the last 5 here, not quite as good, but still 3 out of 5. Not too shabby either. Matchup looking pretty nice for Jakob Poeltl. So I think the Spurs could be one team that we target tonight. One of those games that's going to be high scoring. The spread's a little iffy, little dicey, but Jakob Poeltl in a pretty good matchup tonight against Clint Capella, John Collins, and company. Another guy that was good to me the last time he took the court is Keldon Johnson at 15.5 points. 15.5 points last 10 games. He has hit this mark in 80% of those games. We look at the last 4 games. He has also hit at an 80% clip, averaging 18 points per game, going 4 for 5. You look at the teams that he's faced, some pretty tough ones. Phoenix, he got the job done. Golden State, he more than got the job done there. And then Cleveland in the last game got the job done against them. So you can kind of see over the course of those last 5 games, he's getting it done against some pretty tough opponents. Now, you take Derek White out of the starting lineup, I think that opens things up even more potentially for Keldon Johnson, more opportunities to score and things like that. So let's go take a look at the matchup for Keldon Johnson here against Atlanta. We already talked about this total on this game being pretty healthy. The spread on this game, a little questionable, but overall, Atlanta giving up the 3rd most points to the small forward position, over 26 points per game allowed. This guy needs about 16 points to get the job done tonight. So I think that he's in a pretty good spot, pretty good position here against this Atlanta Hawks defense. So let's pull a projection up for Keldon Johnson. Keldon's projected for 17.2 points according to the action projection tools. We got him on 4 different sites here at this player prop of 15.5. Actually, we got him on 3 sites at 15.5. One site has him as high as 16.5, so that's a little bit of good news. But at 15.5 on 3 different books, we're seeing strong odds, minus 135, minus 130. The betting public taking the over on Keldon Johnson at 15.5, and I'd probably agree with them on that. Like I said, without Derek White in the lineup, more shots should go to the likes of Pirtle, Keldon Johnson, and DeJounte Murray, guys that, San Antonio trusts in their offense, guys who have been mainstays and focal points in the offense before. So I think Keldon Johnson's in a really nice spot here. At 16.5 on that one other site, people are taking the under here. So between 15.5 and 16.5 points lies 16. So very real chance here that Keldon Johnson could cover at just 15.5 points. Looking through some of these other props here, guys who are hitting their points props at a high clip. You can't help but to look at Nikola Jokic, because over the last 10 games at 24.5 points, he's covered in 7 out of 10 games. That's a 70% hit rate. Last 5 gets a little bit dicey here for Joker. Just 2 out of 5. 2 out of his last 5, he's covered this. He's averaging just 22.4 points per game in that span. So a couple points lower than where his prop line is today at 24.5. So we'll head back to this little chart here. We'll go over to the center position and we'll go take a look at the points column and see how many points per game that the Boston Celtics are giving up to opposing centers over the last 7 games. Now, I will have to double check this number because it's kind of hard for me to believe, but it's saying that Boston has only given up 12 points per game over the last 7 games to the center spot, which is kind of hard to believe, right? Who have they faced in those last 7 games? I'm not sure. I'd have to dig into that a little bit further, but the fact that they're limiting opposing centers to under 12 points per game over the last 7 games is a little concerning. Pretty crazy, actually. Anyway, let's go ahead, pull up a projection here for Joker. Got him projected for a healthy 29.1 points. Now, again, across the industry today, we're seeing some mixed signals in terms of what real-life bettors are doing with their money on these different sports books. We got a couple of sites where he's a betting favorite to go over, minus 115 odds. And then we got a couple of other sites where he's a betting favorite to go under. So it seems like the public is torn, like they're split on Nikola Jokic here at 24.5 points. Let's take this one a step further. I just want to see how Nikola Jokic has done against the Boston Celtics, throughout the course of his career. So we'll just go Nikola Jokic versus Boston Celtics logs. And how many times in the course of his career versus Boston has he covered 24.5 points? I'd just like to look at this a little bit deeper. It looks like 1, 2. Only 2 times. 2 times throughout this young man's career has he covered 24.5 points. Now, it just so happens that those were 2 games out of the last 3. So 2 recent meetings, one in 2019, not so recent, but then there was one from last season where he dropped 43 points on Boston in 38 minutes of playtime. So the career hit rates versus the Boston Celtics, not very sexy. Not really sexy for Nikola Jokic. So let's see what else we got here. How about his teammate, Aaron Gordon? He is up on the board at 15 points. Aaron Gordon, 14 and a half points last 10 games. He's covered in 7 out of 10, 70% hit rate for him. He's been getting the job done here in the last 5 games as well. 80% hit rate or 4 for 5, averaging 17.4 points per game in that span. So maybe we don't like Jokic quite as much. Maybe we look Aaron Gordon's way. Let's take a look at the last 7 games in the Boston Celtics defense. They're giving up about 20 to 21 points per game, which puts them somewhere right around the top 10 fewest. So they're pretty stingy. Their front court of Robert Williams, Al Horford doing a pretty good job at limiting opposing bigs, centers, power forwards in the points department over the last 7 games. So let's pull a projection up here for AG. Aaron Gordon, I've got going for 14.2 projected points according to the action projection tools. Now we're seeing him at 14.5 and 15.5 points on a number of different sports books. So PrizePicks has pretty much split the difference and put him up at an even 15 points. At 15.5, people are betting the under. At 14.5 on at least one site, they are betting the over. So there's a chance here that maybe Aaron Gordon ends up in a push situation. For me, with his hit rates being what they are, I'd probably lean toward the over. Worst case, hopefully, we get a push. But yeah, it's kind of hard to go against a guy who's been hitting at a 70 and 80% hit rate in the last 10 and last 5 games, respectively. So the last guy that we're going to discuss is not up on the board. Oh, yeah, he is. He is Josh Giddey. Josh Giddey at 13.5 points, 70% hit rate. Everybody that I've mentioned so far, by the way, Pirtle, Keldon Johnson, Nikola Jokic, Aaron Gordon, Josh Giddey, all of these guys over the last 10 games have converted on their points props at a 70% hit rate or higher. So that's why we're mentioning these guys. But Josh Giddey at 13.5 points, obviously, like we talked about, OKC dealing with a plethora of different injuries across their lineup. The big ones being SGA, obviously. I think Lou Dort might be questionable. I'm not sure if Dort's playing or not. I think he did play last game. But anyway, Giddey's become more and more the focal point of this team. So Giddey at 13.5, 7 out of 10 games, he has gotten the job done. Now, his last 5 games, 4 out of 5, an 80% hit rate, and he's averaging 16.6 points per game. Now, there was a report that came out that he was on a hard minutes cap of like 30 minutes the last game. I don't know if that's going to be lifted or if that's going to be something that continues tonight against Philadelphia, but we'll have to kind of pay attention to that, monitor that situation a little bit more. If he's on a minutes cap, that does make me a little leery in taking any overs on Giddey. But anyway, Philadelphia over the last 7 games has given up the 3rd most points per game to the point guard position, which is pretty much what Giddey functions as for OKC, especially with SGA out. So primary ball handler, playmaker for Philly. For OKC, going up against Philly, team giving up nearly 27 points per game. He needs just 14 to hit the over. So the matchup on paper here looking pretty good when we take a look at that DVP, defense versus position. I got Giddey projected for 12.5 points, which is less than 13.5. So the projection tools here, not loving Giddey's points prop today. But the betting public, some sites they're taking the over. Some sites they're taking the under. So we're kind of torn once again here. People with their money, they're putting it down on the over on one book. They're putting it down on the under on another book. So we're torn once again, which seems to be sort of the scenario, the case for a lot of these player props today. The public, not really sure which way they should be going on a lot of these props from what I'm seeing across these different sports books. So what do you guys think about Josh Giddey? Are you feeling the over or under on him today against Philadelphia? The matchup looks good on paper. As I mentioned, 76ers giving up the 3rd most points over the last 7 games to the point guard position. Thumbs up if you think that Giddey gets the job done and records at least 14 points. Or if you don't believe in him, you're going to take the over or you're just going to fade it. Leave a thumbs down in the chat for me. I'd like to take the temperature of the room and see what you folks are thinking about some of these props. Now, while you're doing that, we're going to flip the script here. We're going to talk about some assist props. And we'll take a look at the guys who have been getting the job done over the last 10 games at the highest hit rates, obviously. I appreciate you guys assisting me in dropping those likes on today's stream. By the way, I think the hashtag replay gang, shout out to the replay gang, ended up pushing us over 200 likes for the fourth time in a row. So that might have to be the new bar. I might have to set the bar up there at 200 likes and see if you guys go over consistently like you have been over the last 4 days. So appreciate you continuing to drop as many likes as possible on the stream. We're trying to reach an even bigger audience, a bigger community, and help as many people as possible get their player prop research started off right each day. All right. With that out of the way, let's talk about some assists, guys who are dropping dimes at a high hit rate. First guy that stands out here is Jason Tatum. And the reason we're talking about him is because out of everybody on today's slate thus far, he has the highest hit rate over the last 10 games. In other words, 7 out of 10, a 70% hit rate at covering 4.5 dimes. Now, over the last 5 games, that hit rate drops off a little bit, down to 60%. But he is averaging 5.2 assists in that span. So definitely more assists per game over the last 5 games than his prop line today of 4.5. Hopefully that's a sign of things to come. So we got to go look at this matchup against the Denver Nuggets here. Tatum typically functioning as the small forward. You got Horford, you got Robert Williams in the front court. So Tatum, the 3-man here for the Boston Celtics. So let's go see how the Denver Nuggets have done in terms of giving up assists to the small forward position over the last 7 games. And it looks like they're giving up quite a few, actually. They're the 5th most giving when it comes to assists, and it comes to the small forward position. Nearly 5 assists per game allowed, 4.88 to be exact. So there's definitely some potential here for Jason Tatum to get the job done against this Denver Nuggets squad. So let's head on over here back to the action projection tools. We'll take a look at the assist category. I've got Jason Tatum projected for 4.4 dimes, which puts him in striking distance, we'll say, of the 4.5 line that he's at today. 2 books have this prop up at 4.5 right now. 1 book, we're seeing some action, some juice on the over at 4.5. So the public taking the over on Jason Tatum. So he's definitely the one that's got the highest hit rates out of everybody so far. What's up to you? PXLLINN. You're going to have to tell me how to pronounce that one day. I hate having to spell your name out, but what's up to you, man? I appreciate it. Yeah, I kind of rock with you guys and echo what you guys are saying. Keldon Johnson, for me, probably looking like one of the strongest plays so far. Probably one of the strongest plays that I'm seeing so far. Keldon Johnson should have a much bigger role. Well, not much bigger, but an increased role. Fair to say, an increased role with Derek White out for San Antonio. Looking at some of these other assist props, there's a handful of guys here who are hitting their assist prop at a 60% hit rate. You've got the likes of Marcus Smart. You've got Mason Plumlee, Aaron Gordon, and Jakob Poeltl. Jakob Poeltl not up on the board, so we won't even bother trying to discuss him. Aaron Gordon not up on the board either. Mason Plumlee, not seeing him up on the board. Plus, you got Montrezl Harrell in town now. How's that going to impact Plumlee? Not really sure. But the other guy that I guess we could talk about is Marcus Smart here, who is at 5.5 assists across the industry today. But we got him at 5 assists here on PrizePicks, which means a little bit of a value play at 5 assists. And there's an opportunity for Marcus Smart to potentially push. So maybe if he does not get the job done, maybe he ends up pushing. Now, one key piece of news here for this Boston Celtics backcourt. So yes, they got Derek White. No, I don't think he plays tonight, but they also shipped out Dennis Schroeder. So Dennis Schroeder no longer in the mix for Boston. We talked about Romeo Langford is also gone. He's no longer a Boston Celtic. Neither is Enes Freedom, by the way. He was also traded away. But maybe things open up a little bit for Marcus Smart to get a few extra minutes of playing time while they wait to get Derek White integrated into the starting lineup. I'm just throwing it out there. Maybe Marcus Smart ends up being a bounce back play here after going under his assist line in the last 2 games with just 2 and 3 assists respectively. So no more Dennis Schroeder. Don't know if Derek White's going to play. I think that potentially opens up maybe more minutes for a guy like Marcus Smart. Just throwing it out there as a possibility. So let's go to the point guard position. We're going to go take a look at Denver and see how many dimes they've been giving up to opposing point guards over the last 7 games. We scroll down, and Denver giving up about 9.5 dimes to point guards. So I'm actually not mad at that number. Not mad at that number at all. That is the, ninth most? Ninth most over the last 7 games, assists allowed to point guards. So I like the matchup. And I like the fact that we're getting a little bit of a discount, a little bit of a value here, and we at least get the option of pushing if he lands on exactly 5 assists. Plus, he's coming off of 2 bad games in a row. Eventually, at some point, I like to believe that he pops back up and those averages kind of come back to life. So let's go take a look at Marcus Smart. Got Marcus Smart projected for 6 dimes tonight going up against Denver. 6 assists, obviously more than 5. At 5.5 assists on 2 different books, 2 different sites, we are seeing him being bet under -135 and -130 by the public. So what do you guys think? Are you in or out on Marcus Smart's assists today? Do you guys believe that Marcus Smart tonight will see more of a role for Boston with Schroeder out of there, with Derek White maybe not ready to go for Boston yet? Aaron Rodgers says, I'm not touching Marcus Smart's assist ever again. Never? Never's a long time. Never's a really long time. Never, ever? Never, ever? Never, ever? Anyway, I think Marcus Smart, he's going to eventually pop back up to 6, 5, 7 assists. He ain't going to stay down at 3 and 4 assists for the rest of his life. This could be as good of a spot or scenario or situation with their backcourt kind of in flux as you could possibly ask for. Aaron Rodgers says, never, ever, 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 ever. I feel you. All right, so those are your assist props, guys. There's not a lot of them on here, like I said, over the last 10 games who have been hitting at a very high clip. So let's go ahead and move it on over to rebounds. Appreciate everybody joining me this morning. Appreciate all the continued support. We're continuing to grow. You guys seem to love this sort of content. You love sort of this interactive player prop research approach. I hope that I'm helping. Again, don't let these live streams be where your research ends. Let it be the beginning of your research. Jot down some names, some props that you're liking. Dig into them a little bit deeper independently. And if you're part of the community, share those props, and I'll be happy to look into them for you even deeper if you're inside of the Patreon Discord channels. So all right, so we talked some points, some assists. Let's look at some of the rebounders here. The top guy up on the board once again is Jason Tatum at 4.5 rebounds. Is he up on the PrizePicks board though? Oh no, this ain't right. My B. Scratch that. Pause. There we go. Mason Plumlee, sorry guys. Mason Plumlee at 8.5 boards is facing his former team, the Detroit Pistons. But again, do we have any news on Montrezl Harrell, chat? Do you know if Big Trez, is Trez playing tonight or not? Anybody got any news? Let me know if you know if Montrezl Harrell is going to be in or out tonight. Anyway, Mason Plumlee at 8.5 boards, 80% hit rate over the last 10 games. That's 8 out of 10. And then we look at the last 5 here, also rocking an 80% hit rate, 4 out of 5, pulling in over 11 rebounds per game in that 5-game span. So Montrezl Harrell, we don't know about Montrezl Harrell if he's in or out, but Mason Plumlee here has been getting the job done at just 8.5 boards. Let's go look at the matchup against his former team, the Detroit Pistons. He's probably going to be facing off against Isaiah Stewart tonight. I would imagine that Isaiah Stewart still manning the middle for the Motor City basketball team, the Detroit Pistons. Scroll down a little bit here. They're giving up over 15 rebounds per game. That pretty much puts them smack dab right in the middle of the league here in terms of rebounds allowed to the center position over the last 7 games. So not an overly difficult or overly easy matchup for Mason Plumlee. Taking a look at the rebound projections for Plumlee provided by Fantasy Labs. Well, I don't have any. Let's try to refresh the tool here. Maybe they've uploaded some new projections in here. There we go. There's Big Mace. Got him projected for 9.1 rebounds, but interesting here is that 3 different sites. We've got him at 7.5 on 2 books, 8.5 on 1 other book. At 7.5, people are taking the over at minus 140 betting odds. At 8.5, people are taking the under, minus 130 betting favorite to go under. So the projections like him. The hit rates obviously look fantastic for Mason Plumlee, but I'm a little concerned that a couple of these sports books have him as low as 7.5 rebounds. That's a little concerning. Maybe he's a little bit too high at 8.5 boards today on PrizePicks, especially with a guy like Montrezl Harrell in town. So, looking at some of these other high hit rate rebounders, Jakob Poeltl, we've already talked about him for points. We're going to talk about him for rebounds. So obviously, points and rebounds, that's going to be a lot of his PRA. Doesn't get a whole lot of assists. I think he's probably also in play for PRA as well, for you PRA fans out there. But Jakob Poeltl at 8.5 boards last 10 games. This dude's been pulling them in, y'all. 70% hit rate, covering 8.5 boards. That just doesn't seem like a high enough number for him. Seems like he should be at like 9.5. That'd be a little bit more of an interesting decision we'd have to make. But at 8.5, been getting the job done here. You look at the last 5 games, he's got 11, 10, and 11. Now, he pulled in 11 against Cleveland, pretty tough front court. 10 against Houston, not a very good team across the board. And then 11 against Nikola Vucevic and the Chicago Bulls. He did struggle against Golden State, who has their own list of injuries and issues in their front court. 7 against Memphis, against Steven Adams and company. So, kind of get an idea how he's done against different opponents, stronger and weaker opponents. But anyway, Atlanta, let's go see how many rebounds they're giving up to opposing centers over the last 7 games. So we got to go all the way down to the bottom, actually. Atlanta giving up under 10 rebounds per game over the last 7 games to the center position. Just 9.9 rebounds. So this is actually, over the last 7 games, the worst matchup, most difficult matchup for rebounders. So we were liking Poeltl for points. At least I was. I don't know if I like him as much for rebounds, being that Atlanta's being so damn stingy on the glass against opposing centers. So let's go take a look at Jakob here. I got Poeltl projected for 9.7 boards, but he's at 8.5 boards today across 3 different books. Now on those sites, people smashing the under. Minus 125 betting favorite to go under on all 3 sites. So maybe I like Poeltl a little bit more for points. The matchup anyway looks a little easier for him in points than it does in rebounds, if you believe in the whole DVP thing. So let's go ahead and take a look at another guy here. His teammate, DeJounte Murray, at 7.5 boards. Last 10 games for him, a 70% hit rate. He's gone 7 out of 10 in that span. Then we look at the last 5 games. He's averaging 8.2 rebounds. Now, the last 2 games for him, not been good. 7 against Houston, 6 against Cleveland. Do you think he bounces back? It seems like this game against the Atlanta Hawks would be a good one, a good time for him to potentially bounce back. I don't know. I'm just saying. Let's go look at the matchup. Point guard position, DeJounte Murray. Rebounds is the category we're looking at. Atlanta giving up over 7 boards per game, which is the 9th most, about the 9th or 10th most in that span. So this is a plus matchup in terms of rebounds and the point guard position. So let's pull a projection up for Murray. I've got DeJounte projected for 9.1 boards, which is a healthy number when you compare it to the 7.5 line that he's at today. And then across 3 different sites, 3 different books, we're seeing some strong action here on the over. The juice is flowing. Over 7.5 rebounds, minus 140 odds on 2 out of 3 books. And then the other book has him at minus 130. Not bad whatsoever. So DeJounte Murray, maybe he's in a spot to finally get right and bounce back and pull in 8 or more rebounds. We'll have to wait and see. Obviously, we talked about no Derek White. Josh Richardson, not ready to make his debut yet for the San Antonio Spurs. So maybe DeJounte Murray sees a little bit of extra run and a little bit more in terms of rebound opportunities. Some other guys to maybe keep an eye out on: Isaac Okoro, 60% hit rate over the last 10. Jason Tatum, 60% hit rate last 10. Josh Giddey, 60% hit rate in the last 10. Will Barton, Terry Rozier, Al Horford, all at 60% in their last 10. So let's switch it up. We'll go over to the PRA category here and continue to buzz through the PrizePicks board. If you do not play on PrizePicks, use promo code Curry, make your first deposit. You'll get a 100% instant deposit match on your first deposit up to $100. There's probably some folks that are going to watch this video and be like, what the heck is this PrizePicks all about? Well, it's my favorite way to play daily fantasy now, and the only site that I play my favorite player props on. So looking at PRA now, Jakob Poeltl, 23.5 PRA. We've already talked about liking him for some points. His rebounds, little sus. But then you got his assists here that you have to factor in too with the PRA. I will tell you this, at 24.5 PRA, last 10 games, 80% hit rate. But we're getting him at 23.5 on PrizePicks, which is important to note that there is a 1-point value from what it seems on props.cash versus what we're seeing here on PrizePicks. So let's go ahead and take a look at Jakob Poeltl in the center spot and see how Atlanta has done here last 7 games. So we know that they're giving up a ton of points, gobs and gobs of points to the opposing centers. So 25 points, about 10 rebounds. So that's already like 35 PRA. Then we sprinkle in 4 assists on top of that. You're looking at about 39 PRA for a guy who needs just 24 points, rebounds, and assists in this matchup. So let's go pull up his PRA projection here. Poeltl, guy been getting it done. Big guy's been getting it done on the PRA front. So I'm seeing him at 23.5. I'm not sure if that line of 24.5 on props.cash is, I don't know where that's coming from. But anyway, he's at 23.5 on the 2 books. I can verify that. Minus 125, minus 120 betting favorite to go over at 23.5 PRA. And then I got a solid projection of 26, which is 2.5 PRA more on Jakob Poeltl. So are you guys liking Jakob Poeltl's points more? Are you liking his rebounds more? Or are you thinking maybe he's just more of a PRA option for you? What are you guys thinking that Jakob Poeltl is going to do tonight? Or maybe he's just a fade. Maybe you're not a big buyer of Jakob Poeltl tonight. Maybe that's a move as well. Some other PRA options up on the board. Isaac Okoro, who is not up on the board right now for Cleveland. Isaac Okoro at 13.5 PRA, 70% hit rate. He's low-key been hitting his 13.5 PRA over the last 10 games. Josh Giddey, another guy that we talked about for points. Obviously, he's Mr. Do-It-All Swiss Army knife for the Oklahoma City Thunder. The matchup in terms of points looked very good versus Philadelphia. We look at his PRA of 26.5, 70% hit rate in the last 10 games. We look at the last 5 here, 80% hit rate in the last 5. 31 points, rebounds, and assists per game average in that 5-game span. So we talked about it a little bit. You might want to be careful with Josh Giddey. A, it's going to be a blowout. B, there's been some news that he's on a hard minute cap of about 30 minutes for whatever reason. I don't know if they're just like, hey, this season's a throwaway. Hey, we ain't going to do much this year. We shouldn't run one of our best players into the mud. They kind of did that last year with SGA. If you remember toward the end of last season, SGA's minutes and stuff were just starting to taper off, and then they were starting to hold SGA out at the end of last season. It was like, a lost season, so why put the mileage on the guy's tires like that, right? So they could be taking the same approach here with Josh Giddey, starting to kind of monitor his minutes, not put any unnecessary mileage on Josh Giddey. But nonetheless, let's go take a look at this matchup against Philadelphia. If you look at Philly here, they're giving up, like I said, 26.7 points per game. So that's where an opportunity lies for Josh Giddey to get the bulk of his PRA is in the points column. So you could take him for just points if you are liking Josh Giddey tonight. They're giving up about 7 rebounds on top of that. So you're talking about 27 points roughly, 7 rebounds roughly. So you're at like 34 PRA. And then you put 9.5 assists on top of that. And you can see that there's plenty of upside in this matchup against Philadelphia. So no Seth Curry for Philly. He's been traded, obviously. So I don't know how that impacts their backcourt a whole lot. James Harden not expected to play tonight. Tyrese Maxey still in flux. We're not sure if he's going to play or not. So Philly might be trotting out some patchwork type of situation in their backcourt tonight, at least until James Harden's ready to go. So even if Giddey is on a minutes restriction, there could be some potential here for him in a potentially soft matchup against the 76ers. But nonetheless, I'm seeing Josh Giddey at 25.5 PRA on 2 different sports books. Now, this is very interesting. And the reason I want to say what I'm about to say is because normally on PrizePicks, we get a point of value, which is kind of more enticing for us to take the over. But on Josh Giddey, it's the opposite. They're actually 2 PRA higher than 2 sports books out there. So he's at 27.5 PRA on PrizePicks, but he's at 25.5 PRA on 2 different sports books. So that would maybe entice us to take the under. Despite the high hit rates, despite the matchup, maybe we go under on Josh Giddey and his PRA, being that he's 2 PRA higher than he is out on some of the sports books. You thinking Josh Giddey could be an underplay today, gang? Drop a thumbs down in the chat if you think Josh Giddey should be played under at points, rebounds, and assists. Are you willing to take a shot with him being 2 PRA higher than he is out on your favorite sports books? One other guy at a very high hit rate in terms of points, rebounds, and assists is AG, Aaron Gordon. He's at 23.5 PRA today. 23.5 has been good to Aaron Gordon in the last 10 games. He's been going over this number in 7 out of 10, or 70% of his games. We look at Aaron Gordon today at 23.5 in his last 5 games, 4 of 5, an 80% hit rate. So over the last 5 games, he's really been getting it done, averaging 27.2 points, rebounds, and assists. We've already talked about him for points. So now he's looking like a pretty decent look for a PRA option. So let's go find Boston. They're giving up about 24.7 points. Let's call it 25 points for easier math. About 6.6 rebounds. So that's about 31 PRA. And they're giving up about, let's switch it up here. Sorry. Boston giving up about 20 points, about 10 rebounds. So that's 30 PRA and about 3.5 assists. So you're looking at like 33, 34 PRA, something like that. Anyway, he needs just 24, so there's definitely some potential and upside in the matchup. So let's look at Aaron Gordon's projection. Got him projected for just 22.7 PRA. If we're feeling generous and we want to round it up and call it 23 PRA, we can. But even at 23 PRA, he falls short at covering 23.5 according to these projections. Now, this is just one projection model. I highly encourage you to cross-reference this. There's sites like NumberFire. There's sites like Betting Pros and RotoWire who offer free single stat player prop projections that you can use as another reference, another tool in your toolkit. So I've got him at 22.7. Maybe those sites have him higher or lower. It's good to kind of compare and come up with an aggregate number. You know what I'm saying? Anyway, 23.5 on the couple of different sports books that they have him listed at. He is a betting favorite at minus 130 to go under. So the public is not liking AG's PRA. Some other guys to consider who are at like a 60% hit rate in the last 10 games on their PRA. Mason Plumlee, which we've talked about for rebounds. Will Barton, 60%. And Keldon Johnson, another popular play I think today, 60% for him as well. So now that we've discussed some PRA plays, let's wrap it up here. We'll talk about some 3-point makes, and then we'll take some of your questions. We're right at about an hour in, so we're making good time on today's stream. In terms of the 3-point takers and makers who are hitting at a high clip here, they're not giving us too many juicy ones. Not too many juicy ones. One guy that has been, a decent hit rate over the last 10 games, Lou Dort. Lou Dort's at a 60% hit rate over the last 10. That's at 2.5 3-point makes. He has gone 6 of 10. We look at the last 5 games here. He has gone 3 for 5. We know without SGA and some of the other pieces for Oklahoma City that Lou Dort is going to have a bigger role. He's going to have more usage. He's going to have more shot attempts and more 3-point attempts as a result of all of the players that are out for Oklahoma City. So Lou Dort might be somebody you can roll the dice out on. Let's go ahead and take a look at this matchup. Dort, Not really sure which position you'd really call him. We're going to look at point guard through small forward versus Philadelphia in the 3-point make column. This guy's kind of positionless. So let's just take a look at point guard, shooting guard, and small forward. So Philadelphia against point guards, giving up just 1.6 3-point makes, the second fewest in the last 7 games. Not a good matchup there. We're going to go look at the shooting guard spot. Philadelphia giving up just 2.1 3-point makes, which is the first fewest. So point guard, shooting guards, not a good matchup against Philadelphia when it comes to 3-point makes. And then finally, small forward, Lou Dort. Philadelphia, again, giving up just 1.7 3-point makes. So they're pretty stingy against point guards, against shooting guards, and against small forwards. So I'm not loving the matchup. Philadelphia putting the clamps on, not allowing a ton of 3-pointers over the last 7 games. Lou Dort, though, projected for 3 3-point makes, but the public not riding with Lou Dort here. They're taking the under. They think he's going to make less than 3 3-point makes tonight. So minus 125 betting favorite to go under on 2 different sites. So maybe he's an under option in what looks like a really tough matchup across the board against Philadelphia. Other than him, maybe you consider Marcus Smart, who's been knocking down 2 or more threes over the last 10 games at a 60% clip. You could do worse, I guess. Last 5 games, also 60%. You could see it's pretty much feast or famine for Marcus Smart. He's either knocking in 2, 4, or 6, or 0. There's no in between with this guy. He's either hitting or he's falling apart. So, feast or famine with Marcus Smart. Boom or bust, another way you could put it. Anyway, this matchup against the Denver Nuggets tonight, let's go see how many threes to point guards that Denver's been giving up last 7 games. Denver, pretty tough team. They will be without Monty Morris tonight, though, so that's one thing to obviously note. But they're giving up about 2.7 threes per game. We can round that up and call it 3. You can see where that puts them, like right in the middle of the league, right in the middle of the pack there. So not an overly difficult matchup, not overly easy as well. So let's get you a projection on Marcus Smart, and then we'll take some of your questions and see what you guys want me to look at for you. Got him projected for 1.7 triples, and then 2 different sites. We're seeing some strong action, strong juice on Marcus Smart over 1.5 threes, minus 140 betting favorite to cover this prop. So maybe he's a potential option for you. But other than that, a lot of these other guys up on the board, coin flip, like 50% hit rate over the last 10 games. So don't know that I'm in love with any of them or trusting any of them. All right, gang, time for you to drop some questions, drop some props. If you have anything you want me to take a look at, leave them in here. I see that stud Killer Cam is already asking about Terry Rozier's points. We will absolutely take a look at Terry Rozier's points. That will be the first one we take a look at for you. So Terry Rozier, kind of an interesting player, right? I mean, we know that he's tasked with doing a lot of scoring for Charlotte. But over the last 5 games, it's been ugly. Really mainly over the last 3 games. We go and we look at the last 5 games. He's covered this 21.5 point prop in 2 out of 5. Now, last night we saw Ja Morant, for whatever reason, kind of didn't have a great scoring night against this same Detroit backcourt. It'll be probably Corey Joseph and Killian Hayes once again for Detroit, unless Cade Cunningham decides he feels good enough to give it a go. So I'm not really scared of Killian Hayes, not really scared of Corey Joseph all that much. But let's look at this matchup here against Detroit in their backcourt. Now, Rozier, typically more of your shooting guard, LaMelo Ball, more of the point guard. The Detroit Pistons against opposing shooting guards, giving up about 23 points per game. So that puts them close to the top of the pack here in terms of most giving to opposing shooting guards over the last 7 games. So again, not really scared of the matchup against Detroit. I think this is more about, is Terry Rozier going to make the most of his opportunities? He gets plenty of volume. He gets lots of shots up. No Gordon Hayward tonight. So there should be, as many shots as Terry Rozier can handle, right? But he's been kind of a hard guy to trust over the last handful of games. What's weird about this prop, once again, kind of like the other one that we talked about, which was Josh Giddey's PRA, Terry Rozier is at 21.5 points tonight. He's at 21.5 on PrizePicks, but out on 4 different books, 4 different sites, he's at 19.5 points. So PrizePicks is coming in hot, 2 points higher on Terry Rozier than every other sports book out there. We talked about how he struggled in the last 3 games. Now at 19.5 points out on these sports books, people are actually betting the under. So they don't think he's going to score 20 or more tonight. So at 21.5, we should definitely be feeling the under, right? If the public's taking the under on 19.5, then the under on 21.5 should be a no-brainer. There's only one book out of the 4 that I can reference here where people are actually thinking that he goes over 19.5 points. They're actually betting the over on 1 out of these 4 sites. So he is projected for 22.4. Has struggled in his last 3 games, but his line today of 21.5, 2 points higher than what it is out on these other sports books. Let me just refresh. Make sure we got the latest. Oh, it's been adjusted. It's been adjusted. So they came in high at that 21.5. At 19.5 now, ooh, I don't know, man. 19.5 is definitely a lot more of a difficult decision now. I'm probably just going to fade it. Don't feel great about it. I'll probably just fade it. Yeah. I caught it, gang. I caught it. Not loving that, though. I was actually about to just go ahead and just lock it in under 21.5. I'm glad I refreshed. I'm glad I hit the refresh button. I was about to lock that thing in at 21.5 under. So, yeah, I don't know that I trust Rozier at 19.5. That's a much sharper number than 21.5. I was ready to go under at 21.5. At 19.5, I ain't messing with it. NFL Dubois says, every time I'm on the Celtics, they either blow a team out or get their ass kicked and sit their players all fourth quarter. Maybe you should, if you feel that way, if that's what you think happens every time you play the Celtics, maybe you should look at maybe like a first half only option on Boston. That at least removes the potential blowout. So that could be a move. If you like Boston players or props, you got points and fantasy points available first half only on PrizePicks. So that could be a move. Lance MVP is asking about Jeremy Grant over 1.5. What is that? 3-point makes? You're ready to go over on Jeremy Grant at 1.5 3-point makes against Charlotte, even though he's went under in 4 straight games. You're thinking maybe this is the game he finally knocks down at least 2, huh? You may be right. I don't know, but you may be right. Let's look at the matchup real quick. Charlotte Hornets given up 2.8 triples over the last 7 games, nearly 3 3-point makes. So you can see that puts them as the team giving up the 6th most threes in that 7-game span. So there's definitely potential or upside for Jeremy Grant here at the power forward spot. Let's pull a projection up. Let's see how the action projection tools like Jeremy Grant. They got it projected for 1.6 threes. Not 1.5 on one sports book. They have him up. They are taking the over. They like him to go over at minus 130 betting odds to cover. So I don't know that I'm looking to go there, being that like he hasn't really shown a consistent ability to make 2 or more threes. But if you're looking at it as just like this looks like a good matchup, a good situation type of play, I can see where you're getting down on some Jeremy Grant over 1.5 threes. MP's asking about Tyrese Halliburton over on points. Are we ready to just dive in head first on Tyrese Halliburton, sight unseen? What I mean by sight unseen is we have not seen him in an Indiana Pacers uniform yet. We have not seen him in the lineup or rotation for Indiana just yet. Are we ready to dive in head first on Tyrese Halliburton's sight unseen? I don't know that I am. I kind of am going to take a wait and see approach on a lot of these teams who have new faces, especially new faces who are in major roles on a team. Obviously, Tyrese Halliburton was traded for because they believed in him, and he will play a major role for the Indiana Pacers. How big of a role remains to be seen. If Malcolm Brogdon's out, I'm in on Tyrese Halliburton. Kind of like I was in on Karis LeVert with Malcolm Brogdon out. But with Brogdon in, I don't know. Like I said, it's sight unseen. We've never seen this guy with this team in this uniform before. It's going to be something that truly feels like a gamble. Anyway, what we can try to do is come up with an idea of how things could go for Tyrese Halliburton. Cavaliers defense against opposing point guards, giving up the 5th fewest points per game to the point guard position in the last 7 games. Just over 19.3 points, which begs another question. Is Tyrese Halliburton the shooting guard or the point guard with Malcolm Brogdon in the lineup? They're both kind of like combo guards. I would say that maybe Brogdon a little bit more of the point guard, but jeez, I don't know. I don't freaking know. The Cavaliers against opposing shooting guards, just for kicks and giggles, 19.7 points per game allowed to opposing shooting guards over the last 7 games, which is the 8th fewest. So they're really difficult against opposing point guards and shooting guards. So let's flip it on over here. Let's see if we can pull a projection up for Halliburton. Hopefully they've got one up. They got Hallie projected for 14.6 points. He is at 15.5 points across 4 different books today. And it looks like the public is in on some Tyrese Halliburton over 15.5 points. 3 out of 4 sites he is being bet over. But I don't know for me. I think I'm going to wait and see on him. Now, we talked about Rozier for full game points. Someone here, Magic, is mentioning Rozier. How about Rozier first half only points? Let's explore. 9.5 points last 5 games. He has covered this in 4 out of 5. So an 80% hit rate, which is a lot better hit rate than where he was at for his 19.5 point full game prop. Now, if you think this game gets out of hand, which it probably will, and the Charlotte Hornets end up blowing out the Detroit Pistons, which they should, right? I think Charlotte's a lot better team. Maybe you play this as a first half only prop. Let's go a little further with this. We can pull up some more game logs on Terry Rozier. You go Terry Rozier first half points logs here on StatMuse. In case you've never seen this site before, StatMuse. And then we already know about his hit rates over the last 5 games. 4 out of 5, 80%. Let's go back 5 more games. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Out of those 5 games, he's 3 out of 5, bringing his total hit rate for the last 10, 7 out of 10. 70% hit rate at 9.5 points. So, yeah, not bad, right? 4 out of his last 5, 80%. 7 out of his last 10, 70%. I think his first half points play might even be a better option than his full game points. So, not mad at that one. Not completely hating that one. Mac, we talked about Tatum and his assists. He's been getting the job done lately. The matchup looked pretty good for Jason Tatum's assists. Wouldn't be mad at you for taking the over on that. My man P, I don't want to spell your name out. My man P is talking about some Bridges assists. Let's go look at Miles Bridges. He's at 3.5 dimes. He's covered this in 4 straight games. 7 against Cleveland, 5 against Miami, 5 against Toronto, 5 against Chicago. Averaging 4.4 assists over the last 5 games. So let's go look at Miles Bridges and his projected assists today, just to give you a little more information, and then you can kind of go out and do a little more research on your own. But 3.5 assists got him projected for 3.9, and then 3 different books at 3.5. He is a betting favorite today to go over. Minus 125, minus 130. Austin, this is just a high level sort of first look overview of today's slate and props. I don't even have any picks locked in yet, my friend. So you're asking me for my top 4. I don't even have an entry locked in yet. This is my first look. I'm looking at it with you in real time here live. So if you're saying just tell us your top 4, please. Well, I don't know, man. I got to look into these further. All we're typically just doing is looking at some hit rates, looking at some projections, looking at some matchups. I'm probably going to go and dig into these props a little bit deeper once I end today's live stream. Then I'll have a better idea of what my top 4 are. But as of right now, I don't know what my top 4 are. I got to go a little further, a little bit deeper. Chris Smith, you are mentioning DeMar DeRozan's points. And for good reason. DeMar DeRozan's been hooping. He has been balling. And we talked about the total on this game being, 240 between these two teams, Chicago and Minnesota. So DDR at 28.5 points last 5 games. He's covered this in 4 out of 5. Now, this dude is going crazy lately. 35.6 points per game average over the last 5 games. So I could see why you would bring DeMar DeRozan's name up. I could totally understand why you'd bring his name up. Guy's been killing it. Small forward position going up against Minnesota tonight. Minnesota giving up the 4th most points per game in that 7-game span, nearly 26 points per game. So yeah, the average of 26 is less than 28.5, but you kind of look at the ranking and you start to drool a little bit. Your mouth starts watering. You start salivating at what could happen here when DeMar DeRozan faces off against this Minnesota Timberwolves team. Matchup looks very, very good here on paper. Let's go pull a projection up if we've got one on DeMar DeRozan. Let's refresh. Make sure we've got all the most up-to-date projections that we can. I've got DeRozan projected for exactly 28.5 points. He's a betting favorite on 3 different sites to go over. He's even at 29.5 on one other site. But at 29.5, the public, a little bit more shy of taking the over at 29.5. We're seeing him being taken under at 29.5. So yeah, I think DeRozan, the game totals, the matchup, the hotness that he's been on here over the last 4 games. I mean, dude's been balling. So I cannot fault you for wanting to take DeMar DeRozan over once again tonight. Cannot be mad at you. 80% hit rate, by the way, at 28.5 points over the last 10. So DeRozan, definitely getting the job done. My man Mac B coming through, asking about one of my favorite players this season. Not just because he plays for my favorite team, the Orlando Magic, but because Wendell Carter Jr. is coming into his own, gang. Whether you want to admit it or not, Wendell Carter Jr. is turning into a very nice player for my Orlando Magic. So let's go find the man that I affectionately refer to as Wendell the Carter Jr. Mac B says Wendell's PRA look good due to some research. I can respect some good research. He's at 27.5 points, rebounds, and assists. Now, I'm all in on some fantasy points. I'm more of a fantasy points guy, but you could also take Wendell Carter Jr. for PRA. Now, just for fun, we got him at a, 60% hit rate last 5 on his PRA. Let's see what his fantasy point hit rate looks like. Ooh, they don't have him up yet. All right, well, I guess we can't talk about him then for fantasy points. Anyway, PRA 27.5, 3 out of his last 5 games. He's gotten the job done, averaging 31.2 points, rebounds, and assists. Now, one thing that I am worried about is the spread on this game. It heavily favors the Utah Jazz, which means major blowout potential here. Definite opportunity for Orlando to get completely run off the floor. Now, Utah, against opposing centers, they're giving up about 20 points, about 15 rebounds. So that's already 35 PRA. Let's call it 5 assists and call it 40 PRA roughly to the center position. So there's definitely potential and upside here. Let's also look at the power forward spot because he and Mo Bamba kind of interchangeable. I look at Wendell Carter Jr. as more of your hard-nosed, blue-collar type of center. Mo Bamba likes to sit out on the outside, shoot his three-pointers. Now, Wendell Carter Jr. will make some threes. Will take and make some threes, but he's the guy who's typically more hard-nosed. He's down there in the paint getting dirty. Where Mo Bamba, he ain't about that physicality. Anyway, Wendell Carter Jr., if we look at the power forward position, PRA allowed by Utah, 23, about 10 boards. So that's already 33 PRA and about 3 assists. So about 36 PRA. So I'm not afraid of the matchup. What I'm afraid of more than anything is that in the fourth quarter, we may not see a lot of Wendell Carter Jr., if any, if this game gets out of hand, which is expected to. So matchups looking pretty good here for me, for Wendell Carter Jr. Let's go ahead and pull up a projection for his PRA. We've got him at 29.3 projected points, plus rebounds, plus assists. Now he's at 27.5 on 2 different books. He is being bet under. Bet under. Magic are one of the few teams who really didn't make any impactful moves, impactful trades that's going to shake up their roster or rotation a whole lot tonight. So we can kind of feel confident about Wendell Carter Jr.'s role remaining what it has been. It's not really going to change at all. The only guy they picked up was Bol Bol, and Bol Bol ain't going to be in the rotation or lineup tonight. I don't think so. Too soon. So I don't mind you going to Wendell Carter Jr. Just for me, hopefully they post like his first half points or first half fantasy points at some point today. And I'd feel more comfortable taking maybe some overs on a first half only prop. Aaron Rodgers says Terry Rozier's been too inconsistent for me. I cannot blame you. He has been wildly inconsistent. I am not mad at that. Let's see here. 9 Ether God's got an interesting play. Matisse Thybulle, first half points. Matisse Thybulle, first half points. I was just talking to the Discord squad earlier. What was it, last night? I was asking about Tyrese Maxey, Matisse Thybulle. Who's the better player for Philadelphia? And a lot of folks said Maxey. At least Maxey's won me more money. I don't think I've ever taken a Matisse Thybulle prop, but maybe tonight's the first time, right? There's a first time for everything. With the Philadelphia 76ers, without James Harden, without Seth Curry, Tyrese Maxey, I think he's questionable. Somebody's going to have to step up. Maybe it's Matisse Thybulle, right? There's going to be more opportunities, more shots. Maybe Furkan Korkmaz comes out of nowhere. Maybe it's Shake Milton. Who knows? But Matisse Thybulle at 3.5 points. We've taken overs, at least I have. First half overs on guys like Steven Adams at 3 points. Isaiah Stewart at 3.5 points. You would think that a guy like Matisse Thybulle, who's more of a skill position player, guard, forward, would have a real opportunity at scoring at least 4 points tonight in an increased role without some of these players available for Philadelphia. You would think. Now, it's hard for us to really gauge like a projection, get a projection or anything for Matisse Thybulle. So let's just look at his last 10 game logs. We've already got his last 5 pulled up. 2 for 5 there, 40%. Let's go to the previous 5 games. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. He's only covered this in 1 out of 5. So overall, last 10 games, he has covered in 3 out of 10. That's a 30% hit rate. You that take these props, like Matisse Thybulle over 3.5 first half points, you must like to gamble to do this. It could happen. Look, there's a real chance that it could happen. His role should be increased. Not saying it's impossible, but you're putting your money out there on this guy getting it done who hasn't really gotten it done over the last 10 games. So proceed with caution, 9 Ether God. I am not saying it is not doable. I am not saying that it will definitely flop. It just doesn't look sexy on paper. Austin, same kind of situation with Halliburton and his points. I'm kind of taking the same approach with his assists. You could go there. His assists are what, 6.5, or at least they were earlier. Tyrese Halliburton, 6.5 assists going up against Cleveland. I mean, obviously, first game with Indiana. Not sure how many minutes he's going to get. Not sure what his role is going to be like. You're going into it blind. You're going into it dark. But if you want to go into it, let me just pull up a projection for you on Halliburton. Got him projected for 7.5 assists. So they do have him projected to go over. Not 6.5 assists. The betting public smashing the over on Tyrese Halliburton at 6.5. Minus 40 betting favorite on 3 different sites. So you're really rolling the dice, not knowing what the guy's role is going to be, not really knowing much about anything when it comes to Halliburton. Travis A. is asking about Kelly Oubre first half points. So we talked Terry Rozier already. You're looking at the wingman, Mr. Kelly Oubre at 9.5 points. He's covered this in 2 out of his last 5 games, so 40% hit rate. Let's take a look at Oubre real quick. We can go Kelly Oubre without Gordon Hayward. Since we know Hayward's going to be out, should open up more opportunities, more playing time. Look at Oubre's hair. Dang. Well, boy, I don't know. They could have done a better job with his hair, man. That don't even look like Oubre to me. I don't know who that looks like. Wesley Snipes from Demolition Man or something. That blonde is just don't look right to me. I don't know. They could have done a better job on my man Oubre. Anyway, Kelly Oubre. First half points logs. Not sure what's going on here. Let's try this again. Kelly Oubre, first half points. Maybe got to change the order of what we're asking here. Without Gordon Hayward logs. Let's try this. There we go. All right. So from this season, he's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 game logs as a member of the Charlotte Hornets. First half only. He's got to get 10 points tonight. He's done that twice. Twice this season. 2 out of 6. So not the don't feel the most confident about that. If you want to play it, you play it. Looking at some other props here. Rocket Sauce is asking about DeAndre Hunter, not Ayton. DeAndre Hunter at 22 fantasy score seems light in what is a great game. So let me just keep refreshing because things are a-changing. Let's make sure we got Mr. Hunter here at 22 still. There he is. 22 fantasy points, last 5 games, 60% hit rate for DeAndre Hunter. I do have some projections that we could reference here. Got DeAndre Hunter projected for 23.1 fantasy points, which is just a little bit higher than where he's at on PrizePicks. Just a little bit. He's the small forward. Let's go to the fantasy score column. San Antonio giving up about 35 fantasy points per game, which is the 4th fewest to opposing small forwards over the last 7 games. So they've been doing a pretty good job. Either that or they've been facing some bums at the small forward spot. So 4th fewest, but he needs just 22.1 fantasy points to get the job done. So not impossible. There's definitely upside. P, you think that they changed that Terry Rozier prop because of me? I don't know, man. I doubt it. Smitty, you're mentioning some Will Barton boards in a great matchup. Let's go look at it. Will Barton, 4.5 rebounds. Last 5 games, He has gone over 4.5 rebounds on 3 out of 5. You're liking the matchup against Boston. Let's go see what you're trying to see here. Show me what you're seeing. Boston's given up about 7 rebounds per game, 5th most to opposing shooting guards in the last 7 games. We already talked about it. No Monty Morris. Not sure how that impacts things or shakes things up for the Denver Nuggets backcourt. Maybe Will Barton, his usage goes up a little bit. But yeah, on paper here, Boston giving up over 7 boards per game to shooting guards. So definitely not a matchup that I'm looking to fade or stay away from and avoid. But I do have him projected for 5.7 boards. He's at 4.5 rebounds on all 3 sites, but on 2 out of those 3 sites, the public not in love with Will Barton's rebounds tonight. They're actually taking the under. But what do they know, right? Who knows? Who freaking knows? Let's see. Just trying to work my way through as many of these as possible, gang. I see you guys are dropping them. I'm like way behind. Way behind here. Way behind here. Skim through. I'm going to try and skim through. No Bulls props. Yeah, we talked DeMar DeRozan's points. Looking kind of good. Looking kind of juicy. Josh Giddey, 6 rebounds, 6 assists. We talked about Josh Giddey's PRA looking kind of nice. Travis A says, hit the like button, everybody. Yeah, we could try to keep this 200 like streak going if enough of you hit the like button. Kyle says he just got in here. He'll have to watch the recap. Wes says, people asking for locks and top plays at 11 a.m. don't know how the NBA works. Clowns. That last part wasn't nice. Wes, you got to be nicer. You got to do better. Don't call them clowns. But listen, man, a lot can change as you're mentioning. Chuck Roast leaving a long comment here. That's the kind of dude that will put money on it without doing his own research. Expects CJ to give him free advice but won't pay for it. Oh, and if the picks don't hit, he'll be in here crying. Listen, man. I do as much as I can here on YouTube for free for everybody. I mean, the picks, they don't always hit. Things don't always work out the way that we want them to work out. But yeah, there's definitely no locks. There's definitely no locks. Rocket Sauce says, if there is a prop you really like, you got to jump on it early. The other day, he got LaMelo Ball at 40.5 fantasy points, and he ended up jumping up to 43.5. And guess what? LaMelo Ball still covered at 43.5 fantasy points against the Charlotte Hornets that night. Chris is asking about DeMar DeRozan's PRA. We talked already. DeMar DeRozan's points looking very nice. Very nice. We'll take a few more props and then I will wrap this thing up. And then if you're in Discord, you'll see me in Discord. If you're in Discord and Patreon, I'll be up in Discord for the rest of the day, in and out of there all day long, as I typically do. But yeah, DeMar DeRozan's PRA of 41.5 and 80% hit rate. He's one of those guys that's very scoring dependent. He's going to definitely have to hit a high amount of points in order for him to hit his PRA. So they kind of go hand in hand. If his points are good, then typically his PRA is also good. But I believe both of them have an 80% hit rate and have gone 4 straight. He's covered both points and PRA in 4 straight games. So yeah, DeRozan's PRA probably just fine. If you're liking the points, then I would suggest you also probably like the PRA. Now he's projected for 39.8 PRA, which is a couple PRA short of his line of 41.5. The public taking the under on his PRA at minus 120. So just to kick it back over to his points, he's at 28.5 today. He's projected at 28.5 as well. But the public is taking the over on just his pure points. So maybe they trust his points more than they trust his PRA. And then we mentioned it before, he's at least at 29.5 PRA on one other book. So that's like a point of value potentially. Praise the Sun mentioning some Darius Garland PRA. That is not a name that we have talked about just yet, so I think we should probably shine a little light on Darius Garland's PRA. Is he on the board, though? Darius Garland not up on the board, but here's what I know. 31.5 PRA, pending we get him up on the PrizePicks board at 31.5 points plus rebounds plus assists. He's covered that number in 80% of his last 10 games, has Garland. Okay? So if we do get him up, then I think he is worth looking at. Got him projected for 32.2 PRA. Now he is at 30.5 on two sites, two books, where he's being bet over at 30.5 PRA versus the Pacers. So yeah, he would be a play for me if we get him. For sure. Nick's saying that if you want some picks, join the Patreon and join the community. You can tail all the picks you want, research with over 300 other folks with common interest, and share in the glory of our winners circle, for sure. We got a lot of folks in there that are, into other sports, not just NBA. We got a really sharp guy, Jeff, in there who's crunching numbers for CSGO every night. My man is slowly but surely formulating a very nice CSGO model in there. So shout out to Jeff, who is putting in the freaking work daily on CSGO. But yeah, got a lot of different folks in there who are into a lot of different sports and a lot of different things. I know we talk NBA on these shows, and that's primarily what I focus on, both here on YouTube and in the Discord and Patreon community. But like I said, a lot of different people, a lot of different interests and expertise and skills in other sports, CSGO, NFL, college basketball, PGA, you name it. We're doing it. If you can bet on it, we're playing it. So yeah, shout out to the Patreon community. Thank you for everybody who is supporting for this month in February. Can't do this stuff without you, whether it be YouTube, whether it be the community that we got going on. Beyond humbled, beyond blessed, and beyond grateful for your continued support wherever you choose to support. Quepid 101, thanks for your patience. Sadiq Bey's points. Sadiq Bey's points. For me, it probably would hinge a little bit on what's going on with Cade Cunningham, what's going on with Marvin Bagley III. But I could see what you see here with Sadiq Bey. 4 out of his last 5 games, 80% hit rate. He's covering the 16.5 while averaging 17.2. Now, I don't know what happened to him here on February 8th against the Mavs. My man had 3 points. That was 3 more points than I had. And I was sitting at home on my couch that night. I almost had as many points as Sadiq Bey. He outscored me by 3. And I don't even play hoops in the NBA. So I'm a little bit worried about Sadiq Bey on that Dallas game. But hopefully that was just a bad game. We sweep that one under the rug and move forward. Let's go look at this matchup against Charlotte. Sadiq Bey, obviously the small forward for now until Bagley gets in there. And then we don't know what's going to happen at that point. But the small forward spot going up against the Charlotte Hornets. Last 7 games for Charlotte, they've given up about 20.5. Call it 20 to 21 points per game to the small forward spot. My man, Sadiq Bey needs just 17 to hit. 17 to hit the over. I have him projected for 15.6, which is less than 16.5. But 2 out of the 3 sites that have this prop up, we are seeing the public take the over at 16.5. Let's try to take a couple more here. We're getting into overtime here on today's stream, but let's take maybe just a couple more. Levine points. We have not talked any Zach Levine. I think he'll probably be a very popular play given the game totals, given the spread and everything. So Levine's at 25.5 points. DeMar DeRozan's definitely been sort of the alpha dog here lately. I mean, he's been option 1A. Zach Levine taking on more of that option 1B role for Chicago. But we cannot sleep on Zach Levine. We cannot make the mistake of sleeping on Zach Levine, especially when you consider tonight's opponent. That's right. Cue up the revenge narrative for Zach Levine against the Minnesota Timberwolves, the team that he used to play for, in case y'all forgot. LaVine, once upon a time, was a T-Wolf. And now he gets to take on his former buddy, his former pal, Karl Anthony Towns and company. So do you think Zach LaVine comes out with a little extra motivation? I think he does. I think he comes out aggressive. So let's go ahead and pull out a projection for Zach LaVine. I got him projected for 27.6 points. He is at 25.5 on most sports books, but is a betting favorite to go under on 3 out of 4. But one interesting piece of news, he is at 26.5 on at least one other book, one other site. So they believe, their lines makers believe that 25.5 might be a little low. So they put him up at 26.5, meaning 26 to 27 point range is within reach here for Zach LaVine. All right. Obviously, I'm not going to be able to get to every freaking question in here as much as I want to, as bad as I would like to. I can't, guys. I'm only one man. I've only got so much time in a day to devote to you guys in these live streams. But Travis has one important question here. He says, would you at least consider an NFL Super Bowl stream tomorrow, boss? Travis, I think I can make an NFL Super Bowl stream tomorrow work. I just don't know what time just yet. Got some family obligations, some family time, some things coming up. But yes, NFL Super Bowl stream has to happen tomorrow at some point. I agree. I'm in, Travis. Thank you for bringing that up. I am in. In there like swimwear. Aaron Rodgers saying LaVine is covered in 5 of 7 games against Minnesota. Revenge narrative's real. It's not really a narrative if there's numbers backing it up, right? That the guy does well against his former team. Accolade Rhymes is dropping a super chat, a last minute Hail Mary super chat play. DeJounte Murray's assist is higher than the assist king himself, Trae Young. Under, I feel for sure. Kind of sound like Yoda there. Under, I feel for sure. All right, let's look at it. Last one. Last freaking one. Thank you for the super chat accolade, man. I appreciate all your support here on YouTube through these super chats. DeJounte Murray, you're wanting to go under on DeJounte Murray at 10.5 assists. His hit rate over the last 5 games, 60%. He is covered in 3 out of 5. He's going up against Trae Young of the Atlanta Hawks. Let's go look at that matchup. Point guards, assist category, last 7 games. Now, this is why I'm a little scared, a little leery of going under with DeJounte Murray. For one, we know Derek White is no longer with the Spurs. So more usage potentially in more assists and opportunities for DeJounte Murray to rack up those dimes. That's one reason. The second reason is the Atlanta Hawks are giving up the second most assists per game over the last 7 games to the point guard position. 11.5 dimes. That's a lot of assists. My man is at 10.5. So even at 10.5, there's upside against Atlanta here at 11.5 allowed over the last 7 games. So I would say be careful. For me, it would either be a fade or an over. I don't feel great about taking the under on DeJounte Murray's assists in this game with this total. Now, I do have him projected at 9.2 assists. He is at 10.5 on every sports book that I can reference. And the betting public, they're talking with their money by putting it under 10.5. So they are taking the under on DeJounte Murray. One other thing you could do here is go DeJounte Murray assists versus Hawks logs. He played Atlanta on November 24th, which is this season, one previous game from this season. He played 34 minutes, logged 22 points, 11 assists, which is enough to get the over, and 8 rebounds to go along with 2 steals versus the Hawks. So he covered in his one previous game versus Atlanta this season. I don't care about any of these other games. This year's DeJounte Murray It's a lot better than the DeJounte Murray of last season or previous seasons. So I'm more interested in this one game from this season in which he did get the job done. I would caution you to be careful with DeJounte Murray and taking the under. He does have the upside. He does have the upside. All right. That's it. Catch me tomorrow at some point. I'll post the stream and you guys can join me, but I will definitely be doing an NFL Super Bowl live stream. So if you're into some Super Bowl props, if you're wanting to see who we're liking the most out of the Rams and the Bengals, you definitely don't want to miss out. Make sure you're subscribed. Make sure that notifications are turned on so that you do not miss out when I do go live talking some NFL Super Bowl props here on PrizePicks. Definitely drop a like if you haven't yet on your way out. Again, we're trying to get the word out to as many people as possible. We're trying to help as many people as possible with their player prop process, with their research every single day. So the way that you can help do that is just by liking, by sharing, making sure you're subscribed, all of those things, all of the things. And then I'm up out of here. All right. We'll catch you guys tomorrow for that NFL live stream. Good luck tonight if you're playing on PrizePicks. Peace out.